Click subscribe to get daily Manchester United content from passionate Reds, only on All for United.
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Last Word on All for United. Callum here with a great panel as usual, and Stu. So usually we'd speak about transfers on Sunday because if I'm being brutally honest, there's naff all else to speak about. But this week there is, because something quite large happened yesterday. A little bit of a protest was planned, and our CEO, Richard Arnold, went and met them at the pub instead and bought them all a beer, which is quite nice, I think. But I know there's obviously some upsides and downsides to it, and I think a lot of people are quite split on what their opinion is. So I'm gonna do it a little bit different this week. I'm not going to come to each guest. I'm just going to kind of put it out to the panel because I want everyone to just get the view across as if they are all sat in a pub with a beer, like Richard Arnold did with the rest of the fans that were there. So what I will do is, just because Alexa is next to me on this screen, I will just make him start because he's done a couple of tweets and I know he's got quite a strong opinion on it. So anyone disagrees on this panel, anyone agrees, shout out. Tell him back, shout at him, agree with him, do what you need to do. But Stu, I'm not necessarily going to come to you after Alexa. If you want to jump in, you can do, but you can always...
Yeah, I probably will.
All right.
Yeah, I'll probably do.
Alexa, mate, fire away, because I've got quite a lot written down because I've got a few things I want to say as well. So, and obviously I'm the presenter, so yeah. I kind of want to come into the debate as well.
Yeah, so...
See, Alexa wants to get involved as well. Alexa, mate, go for it.
The thing with this is that this is a man who's not spoken to the fans for 17 years since he's been at the club. Now, obviously, him going to the pub with fans is good, I guess. But the way it's kind of being perceived now that he's the victim of this, of the filming, it's like everyone's being made to feel sorry for him. And I'm kind of thinking a bit like, are we not forgetting everything they've done? And it's like, people were saying today, oh, they're never going to communicate with the fans again. Well, if the CEO of a football club, right, after getting filmed by one fan, decides to never communicate with the fans again, that's pretty outrageous. And I just think a bit as well, like, yeah, like what? Is that all we've got to show for 17 years of the Glazers? That he went to the pub with the fans once? Is that the standard now? And look, I get it. It's an improvement. I do get that. It is definitely an improvement because obviously Ed Woodward was obviously always too frightened to speak to anyone at all. But I just think the way that like Richard Arnold's being made out to be this hero and also a victim at the same time is just quite strange because like, it's kind of the bare minimum that you just have a conversation with your fans every now and then. And you know how this would be avoided is if the way all this stuff with going to houses and pubs and all this stuff, that could be shelved if the club, even since the Super League or since 2005, whatever, this went right every couple of weeks. We're having a proper meeting with a lot of fans. I know they've got that fan advisory thing, but that is very few people, right? You just have a meeting with a lot of fans every couple of weeks on Zoom for 10 minutes. It's not hard, but it's really not that hard. And you just say, this is where we're at with the stadium. This is where we're at with the training ground. This is where we're at with transfers, ticket prices, the fan share scheme, right? That would solve this. But instead, they've not communicated after promising multiple times after the Super League they would communicate. And now they're getting celebrated because they spoke to the fans in the pub once. And that's just, I do not understand that for the life of me. And we've got to remember that this bloke literally a year ago, was endorsing the Super League, which we all protested against. He's endorsed the Glazers for 17 years. He might talk good talk, but ultimately, unless they put in mechanisms to communicate regularly, this is probably the only time we're going to hear from the man. And I don't trust it, and I don't understand why he's being made out to be such a hero. It's like the bare minimum has been done, right? Once in 17 years he spoke to us, and now he's being lauded. I don't get it.
I think that depends on the channels and who you're speaking to. The people I speak to, no one's putting him out to be no hero. I'll be honest with you, no one, literally nobody. Even like one of the guys that was actually there with him yesterday I had him on my space, and everyone was asking him multiple questions.
Who
Literally,
was that?
One of the guys.
Who was it, mate? If you want to name them,
was Steve Shabby _ the red. He was getting asked for about a good couple of hours. People, and he even said the video wasn't supposed to. Like he literally said that no one was. They didn't. Obviously, the person that they didn't even know the person was recording. And I have it on good authority from, I can't even say anything, but someone messaged me this morning and showed me like that wasn't supposed to be the case. That wasn't supposed to come out, if that makes sense. So unfortunately,
the issue with it for me is the fact that, as per usual, we're going to somebody's house. We're going to a man's house to protest. Now, there's ways
I don't
and
agree
means
with
of
that.
protest.
That's the part I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
And, you know, and for me, look, I've got kids. I've got young kids. He's probably got young kids. And credit to the bar manager or the owner of the pub, landlord, if he did phone him and say, look, this is what's assembling.
Oh, by the way, police was there, by the way. There was police there. Okay. The guy, Steve, even said it yesterday. These things, that's what I'm saying. These things actually got put to him. Why would you go to his house? These questions were getting put to him yesterday. Yeah. Don't think they wasn't. They was.
No. I'm sure they were. But what you've done is basically, that's okay. What you've done is then bring a man out of his house to go to a pub to have a meeting with a variety of fans. So you've got to look at it from that point of view. So this is where I'm conflicted. As for getting in front of the CEO of Manchester United Football Club, I'm not conflicted because I think that should happen. That should happen on a more regular basis. But I just feel there's better ways of doing it, you see. And what came out yesterday, we'll never know. You know, I'm sure it was a lot of PR there. Me and James work in the media. We can tell a PR spin just like that. And 99% of it was PR driven. Chances are he would have been given one or two answers from their PR team. Answer it this way because it's relatively ambiguous. That's what happens in the media world, you know, if you don't want to get certain things across. So Alex is right. And a lot of what he said, in as much as, you know, we're not getting the information coming through. We're not having the continued dialogue with the club. All of that's correct. I just wish, for whatever reason, we could do it better. You know, as fans, whoever it is, whichever the group is, it's an irrelevance to the group. I just wish we could do it better.
I think
Manchester United fans.
How does everyone? Quick question. Right. Wait 1 second. This is important for me. I don't know about how everyone else was on the panel, but this is important to me. How does everyone else feel about the information on roughly like a budget we might have at the club? How do people feel about that? Because for me, I wouldn't put that out there for a club I love, so I know other clubs can take the fucking piss out of my club. I personally wouldn't put that out there.
Did he actually say the budget though? Because I didn't hear him say a budget per se. I heard him say it doesn't matter how much the player costs, 100 million, 200 million. It doesn't matter. What we want is to make sure the manager gets what he wants. I don't think he specifically said we have a 200 million pound budget.
The guy that basically posted out the video, he was saying multiple things also in his threads, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but okay. I agree.
Which then got confirmed by the guy that was on my space on Twitter. Basically, he even confirmed it.
Yeah, it's not a good idea putting the budget out there. But then you've got to ask yourself, why is Richard Arnold saying this? Because what it comes back to is you've got to think, right? There's no way he doesn't know there's a possibility he could be filmed. So he sat in a pub in public with people, and then has just told them a transfer budget. And then it's got out, and now like Jamie Carragher going today, well, that's why CEOs never communicate with fans, and it's like, what a load of absolute, like it's absolutely absurd, and it does feel like you guys said, like a PR stunt. It really does, and I just don't get the idea that this is any kind of progression or progressive in any sense. You know, and I agree. So what I was going to say a minute ago as well, I agree with what Stu said. The reason I don't agree with people going to his house at all, and you're right to say that is completely wrong. It is. The reason, though, that people have got to this point is because we've just been asking for communication for 20 years, and there's been nothing. They've just point blank refused. I'm not saying it's right they went to his house, obviously, at all. But that's why it's got to this point. And it comes back to the Glazers. And obviously the Glazers are people that Richard Arnold, who has financed and done work for most of his career. So I just don't buy it. It's like, I don't want to link it to politics, but I'm going to link it to politics. It's like the paradox of when people try and claim like, but when people try and claim like Boris Johnson or Trump are like man of the working class, when they're actually incredibly rich people who were completely out of touch with the working class. It's that thing with Richard Arnold. It's that kind of thing of like, it's really good PR for him because he's bought some people a pint, but ultimately he is still a man in a suit with millions of pounds that is propping up the Glazer ownership. And that is just the truth of it.
I agree with Alexi there. I think it's all a bit of a nothingness when you really look at it. You got this bloke who's in an awkward position as it is. People are threatening to go to his house, so he takes them out for a drink. Not in a comfortable position, but he's also got a job to protect first and foremost. His main priority is making sure his employees are happy. They're probably not going to be happy he's in that position in the first place, but him keeping the fans happy isn't going to be in his priorities there. So you can't really expect him to come out and say, yeah, well, we're going to do this, this, and this. We're going to make false promise after false promise, because that's all we've been fed over the last couple of years with this reform of communication. Yeah, we promised we're going to do this. Nothing's been developed on. So he said what he needs to say. I think he said enough to sort of keep fans off his back a little bit, saying, yeah, we're working on Frankie de Jong deal. We're working on this, that, and the other. There's no promises in there. Very smart in that way. But like I said, his first priority is to keep his name intact, keep his job intact, and to protect the names of his employers. He didn't say a bad word about the Glazers. He said, there was a quote, wasn't there, about Ten Hag and Murto, where it was like, we'll give you the money, you need to go out there and sign these players. Was the quote like, John, you're the fucking director of football, go out there and sign him, something like that. So he just needs to protect the people above him, keep himself in a job, which I think we all love this club, but if we were in that position, you probably would as well. So I just think it really is a nothingness. He's not a United fan. I don't think he comes across as a United fan. He doesn't relate to fans in any sense. I think we've proven that more now than ever, but it's really not something I can look too deep into. I think, like you said, it's just a PR stunt more than anything.
Abdel, I know I said this is going to be an open, but I want Abdel to speak now.
I really don't know much.
I'm forcing you. Go on.
No. I really don't know what to say about it, to be honest, because where I come from,
I think that's kind of a little bit of an issue for everyone at the minute. It really is kind of. I think that there is a split in opinion, isn't there?
Because I think it's, for me, is we're at a point where, okay, we're gonna see what you're going to do because he just became the CEO, but at the same time, you were part of the old regime. You were part of everything that happened ever since these guys took over. So it's like you are culpable. You are part of what happened to Manchester United, but maybe he will do things differently. Maybe not. We don't know that answer yet. Like you guys are saying, maybe it is a PR stunt. Maybe he just did that exactly just to get fans on his side and buy himself some time. But then again, fans are at their limit. How much time can he buy for himself? Like, even if it is a PR stunt, it won't last for long. You know what I mean? As soon as things go south, they will turn on him again very fast, because fans are like, it's here right now. Like, they can't take it anymore. So if I were him, I wouldn't do a PR stunt, because if it is, it won't buy me much time. So if I were him, I'd try to do things differently than Ed Woodward and see where Ed Woodward went wrong and try to do things in a different way. Does that mean it's going to be successful? No, but at least I won't be associated with, oh, you're doing the same thing as Ed. at least that line won't be said to me. So this is how I'm looking at it, at least. But yeah, I mean, we'll figure out later on whether this is a PR stunt, as you guys are saying, or is this man actually trying to do things differently?
So my opinion of it all, really, and I think this comment is quite telling for Connor, because Connor could have come on tonight as well, but he chose not to because he's a dick. I'm only joking. I think it does seem like there is a lot of noise coming out of people that know the club, that it does seem like there is a lot of change coming, and it's not going to happen overnight. And it does seem like the way the club is being run from the right people, it wants to be run better. I mean, ultimately, we have still got to remember who the owners are, and that might stop that. But my opinion of it all here is, so I've made some notes about it and everything, because it was quite telling that something has happened for the first time in 17 years. And part of me wonders if we are kind of clutching at straws because of how little communication we have had over the last, well, near 2 decades. So my first point was Ed Woodward would have never done this. David Gill, to an extent, never needed to. But Ed Woodward would have never had the balls to do this. You know, something similar did happen a couple of years ago, I believe. I think it was after the Super League. And what Ed Woodward did was he called the Sun and decided to get one of them to take a picture and sell it to the Sun. Now, there's no secret in that a week before he hired Neil Ashton, a PR man from who used to work from the Sun. All of a sudden that happens, and then pictures float up on the Sun's website. It seems a little strange. So I do give credit to Arnold for doing it, because he didn't have to. So he genuinely could have just been the same old CEO, not bothered, and just gone, please, people are outside my house, I'm not dealing with this, and just done that. I wouldn't have blamed him for doing that, to an extent, to be fair, because like people have said on the panel, he might have had children, he might not have even been there, but his family might have been there. Encouraging things seem to be said, but ultimately it doesn't mean anything until action happens. Now, that could take a long time to show, I guess. I'm a little disappointed it was filmed, but I get it was filmed for a reason. It ended up allowing us, United fans from all around the world, the billions of fans that we've got, to be able to see that journalists aren't misquoted him, fans aren't making things up. We can all see from the horse's mouth that a video was there of him saying X, Y, and Z. So, on one hand, it is a little bit annoying and a little bit snide, but it's good that we all of us got to feel like we were there to see what he had to say. Change clearly is needed, and I still believe the Glazers do not care at all whatsoever. I don't think this will change anything from a Glazers point of view, but I do respect the fact that he has come out. And my favourite part of it all was, do you want me to buy the players? Does that not ring any bells? He quite clearly called Ed Woodward out, clear as day there, I think. He really did. It was quite obvious. And I really respect that. I think it's quite obvious that Ed Woodward was really not good for Man United, probably as harmful to Man United and as dangerous to Man United as anything ever. And I think like we have had this happen now with the protests outside houses and things, and having to go to the pub to meet these people. The fact that this has had to happen has also led to the Glazers genuinely being a danger to people who work for Man United. It's become dangerous that if you work for United, you're propping up the Glazers and, oh, you're a Glazer sympathiser, blah, 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 blah. It's become a danger for people who work there, all because of them and their silence. They've broken multiple promises. And I've also just made a little note of Alexis' tweet from today. I feel like there was a lot of questions that weren't asked by these people. Where was and I'm literally quoting from your tweet here, Alexis, mate, but where was the promised fan share scheme? That's still not took off the ground at all. I think we've got one board member now, but where's all the fan share scheme that we were promised? Still no improvements to Old Trafford other than a bit of paint over the rust on the stanchions. And after the worst ever Premier League season that we've just had, and I believe, if I'm not wrong, we've just made a £50 million loss, I think, this season. And the debt has gone up by 50 million. It's now back to takeover levels back in 2005. So why are the Glazer family still taking millions of pounds out in dividends after Man United's worst ever Premier League season? Don't let, and I've wrote this perfectly, don't let Richard Arnold buying a few drinks make you forget the key issues. And don't forget, the one priority is get the Glazers out of Man United.
I think there's
panel
one
would-
person that don't get mentioned as much as Woodward and Judge. Arnold is Matt Judge. No one like mentions his name as much as the other guys until the transfers really happen. But this guy is in charge of like Manchester United's financing in terms of depth and capital structure, and he's also the chief negotiator for deals, whether it's sponsorship deals, player deals, whatever. This guy I think is one of the biggest problems at this club, because he comes.
Who is Richard Arnold? Sorry, mate, I didn't hear you properly.
Matt Judge.
Well, he's left now, hasn't he? To be fair, so
yeah,
he's gone.
I think he was also one of the biggest problems that we've had, and that him leaving is a big, massive plus. Now, it doesn't guarantee that the person coming next is an improvement, but I think he was a big issue, and nobody mentioned his name as much as the others. Now, you can say the others hired him, but like he was one of the biggest issues, and the fact that the depth kept increasing or staying the same, or the deals that we've had, or the overpaying on players, that was all him. That was not managers negotiating deals or Ed Woodward just saying, I'm going to pay this. It's that guy. So I'm hoping that the person that comes next, the person comes after him, will be much better. It's a very sensitive position. Like, I'm really worried about who's going to take over from him.
Yeah, but do you guys not think that? I completely appreciate what Connor said and about that he thinks things are finally changing, but the thing is things improving still doesn't say much, because we've been ran so shambolically for years and years that it's anything at this point is an improvement. And I was thinking about this yesterday, and I think obviously that people like Matt Judge and Ed Woodward are problems within the organisation. They're just incompetent and idiotic, and they need to go, obviously. But I do think a bit as well, how much change can really occur while the Glazers still own the club? And how much change can someone like Richard Arnold say he's going to implement when he's someone propping up the Glazer ownership? And we might have a director of football now, but I mean, Leicester had one about 10 years ago, and we might get more structure in transfers, but this should be the bare minimum. This shouldn't be like a massive revolution in 2022. We should have been doing this even when Ferguson was. This should be 2013, 2014, this kind of revamp. So I just think while the Glazers are there, whoever, whether it's Richard Arnold or literally anyone could be under him or working for him, or in that parameter of that job that Richard Arnold does and Matt Judge does, I just don't think things can improve, because it just comes from the top and they're propping up the Glazers.
I just want to say this. You know what I've noticed with the fans here? Because I feel like there's a lot of PTSD in the fan base, right? Me, myself included. And we think because we've been in this situation for so long, and the Glazers haven't held the people that's, as a term I could say, boots on ground, the people that's had boots on the ground, they haven't held those people accountable. So the people that was doing the day-to-day running and everything else of the club, they wasn't held accountable for basically being shit at their job, right? So we don't know. We can speculate and say, you know what, in the next 5 years, 3 years, it might still be like this. But that's all hypotheticals at the moment. And I use an example. It's a bit different, but it's a similar example. If anyone's got any Liverpool fans as friends, or that know their club, like a lot of my family members, they're Liverpool fans, they don't fucking like their owners. But their owners started changing things up and done things right, where they're in a different situation, but they still don't fucking like their owners. Mind my language, but they still don't like their owners. Do you understand? But we're not at that point yet. In 2-3 years' time, we might be like, oh, we've seen things change. Maybe I'm a bit more optimistic and we've seen things change, but we don't know that. The change is just happening, if that makes sense. We don't know. Like I said, you could always have bad owners, but then the people that with the boots on the ground, if they're held accountable for their actions, it's a bit different. It's like if you're running a business now and your business is going to, to the pants, right? And you look in the mirror and like, okay, what more can I do? But then you start looking at all aspects of your business and realize that your managers, your area managers, your line managers, they're also failing at what they're doing, you change it now, it's not going to be an instant success. You've got to give it time. Yes, you've got to take accountability as an owner, but like I said, the people, the boots on the ground, the day-to-day running, and now if you change them and you start seeing that change, then you never know. And I think people forget this, how much that the day-to-day running of the club, that these Glazers, they weren't involved really. Yes, with me personally, I hold them accountable for allowing idiots to run the club into the ground. That's what they've done. I hold them accountable for that all day, every day. But I feel like for us to be like, oh, the change is never going to happen, but we don't know. We actually don't know. In 2-3 years' time, we can see a difference.
But
I just think you guys ought to understand one thing, fellas. There's only one person ever accountable in a football club, and that's the manager. Everyone else gets away with sweet FA.
Yeah, no,
so if you don't play well, they're the only ones that get fired. Nobody else is held accountable in a manager. But I can tell you something.
That's like Man United. No, but that's Arnold, I feel like that's like Man United, Stu. I feel like other clubs, and when the CEO or whoever's underperforming, they get rid of them. They actually get rid of them. I've seen it. But I can give you examples. This is what
I'm going to second.
I'm just about to clarify my comments. Richard Arnold is a professional CEO. That's what he does. That's his living. He's a CEO. If he goes away from Manchester United, he goes to Royal Mail or goes to an A-list company. That's what a CEO is. We've got a CEO within the business. What he's going to do is now do a complete root and branch analysis and a forensic kind of diagnosis of where the club is and how you get it back to the top. And that will take ages. It won't happen in 12 months. It won't happen in 18 months. The club's way too big and it's too rotten to be able to do that. And whether the Glazers give him any kind of latitude to do that, we don't know. We'll just see. But Richard Arnold is a professional CEO. Woodward wasn't. Woodward was a banker. Arnold started as a banker, but came in as an MD and then progressed to CEO. So he's a professional CEO. You're going to have to give the guy time. Now, like I say, me and James can tell you PR spin because that's what we do. I write PR for a living and I can spin for like everybody else for a living. It's just life. I understand it. I can recognize it. I can see it a mile off. What we've got to do as fans is, if you want to keep protesting, fine, but do it the right way. Just do everything the right way. Because what I was trying to explain before is...
What is the right way, Stu?
I was just about to say, we all think, as Man United fans, we're the greatest fans in the world. Well, actually, over the last 2 years, we're not. We've been the most fickle bunch of supporters of any of the biggest football clubs in world football. The right way to do it is to protest, but not at somebody's front door. Do it the right way. He's right in what he says. If you try and stifle Adidas, if you try and stifle Cola, try and stifle TeamViewer, you're just going to drain money out of the club. And when there's no money in the club, eventually it goes. There will be no more Manchester United. So they've got to do it right. We're just going to keep on with the protests, leave the sponsors alone, leave everything alone. And because... we're all guilty of it. I've been a season ticket holder for 29 years. It was my 29th year. There's season ticket holders on this panel. There's people that go to Old Trafford regular on this panel. There's people that buy merchandise on this panel. We all do it and we all fund the Glazers. So we've got to carry on, but do it right. Allow this advisory board that we've got, or this people's board that we've got to work. Allow them to keep communicating with the club, but get them to make sure the club communicates to us.
So, Stu, would you stop going to? Sorry, Alex, would you stop going after the sponsors and stop going after the brands that associate themselves with Man United? Because from what I can see and from Arnold's words, it sounds like it's working. And surely, if we continue to do that, the Glazers will see that they don't want to be associated with it. They won't be getting the money from the sponsors that they once were. And they'll go, this isn't worth owning Manchester United anymore, and sell. Surely it's best to go for the brands and sponsors that go with Man United.
None of us know that. And the problem is, here's the hypocrisy, by the way, of going after sponsors. Everyone on this panel will own an Adidas T-shirt, pair of trainers, pair of socks, pair of pants. You all will. I guarantee, 100% I guarantee it. 100%. That's the hypocrisy. Nobody can tell me you haven't. That's the hypocrisy of it. Oh, I won't buy an Adidas Man United shirt, but I will go and buy this great T-shirt that I want, or I'll go and buy this pair of Yeezys that I want, or I'll go and buy these. We've all got Adidas kit, and probably tomorrow somebody will go and buy some more Adidas kit because they like those kicks, or they like that shirt, and they think it's all right because it hasn't got Man United on it. No, I would have a completely different approach. You need to be. I'm not saying must. I'm not saying must is the greatest approach, but you need to treat it more of a business-like approach. You need to, these are intellectual business people. So if we're going to protest, you need to protest in an intellectual way, and we're not doing it. We're just not doing it right.
But I think people's frustration, Stu, is that
they are frustrated. Alexi,
the dialogue through must has been completely useless for what? I've been a member of Must since I was 7, and I still get emails from them every week. But it's done nothing this whole time. And the thing is, right? I was about to swear. We're in trouble because, right? Either, right? You take your viewpoint, which is let's do the must thing, but we know the must thing isn't working, and then you go, oh, let's go to the more extreme route and go extreme protest. But then you kind of go, is everyone going to get behind this? Is it so? Essentially, we're screwed pretty much because whichever route we take, no one's going to get behind every route. But there's it's not enough anymore. I've thought about this a lot. The fan advisory stuff and all that kind of thing, it's not going to change anything enough. The only way this club will get out of where it is right now is if the second coming of Sir Alex Ferguson lands on the ground and walks through the door at Old Trafford and goes, I'll sort it all myself. And that's just not going to happen. There's maybe a 1% chance of that happening, but it's not going to happen. So that means now that we're stuck with these owners. And even when Sir Alex was there, right, the transfers he got, and it's not about transfers, but, the fact Michael Owen replacing Ronaldo and Valencia, you go back even further. In 2005, United had £0 debt, or just before they took over, £0 debt, and you're talking 400 million, right? At that point in 2005, right, even though Chelsea were coming along, we were such a big brand, right? We were such a big club at that point that we should have been kicking on. So we're so far ahead of everyone else that City can't rock up and catch up with us. Liverpool can't catch up with us. Leicester, Chelsea, all these teams can't catch. We should be so far ahead. We should be like Real Madrid, just completely out of this world. But because they just reduced everything and brought us backwards so much, we're now behind all of those clubs. And the problem is now that we've got is that I genuinely think that if we're being honest, until the Glazers are gone, we're not going to change. We're not going to be back at that level. It's just not going to happen. And the only way we will be back at that level of Liverpool and City is if we have what happened to Liverpool, which is we get a miraculous manager, which, okay, it could happen, but is it going to happen? I just don't think it will, because I think we've got 2 managers in our history that have won a league title for United. So by that thing, it's every 30 years we get a manager that wins big trophies. I just can't see any of it. I just can't see it. And I don't want to be overly negative, but basically, while the Glazers are there, we're screwed, and we're all culpable. I'm still going to go to games with my season ticket. I'm not going to pretend I'm not. I'm part of it. We all are. But the fact is, none of us can honestly sit here and go, we're going to win the league next year or in the next 5 years. If any of you said to me, we're going to win the league in the next 5 years, I'd be like, what, really?
No, I'm more of the impression, Alexi. I don't think we win a title regardless of the manager with these owners. I genuinely believe that now. I think that the owners have genuinely destroyed that club, and that Real Madrid point you made was actually an excellent one, because I've never thought of it like that before. Man United was so far ahead, I think, in terms of, in particular financially, back in the early 2000s, that it really was something that we really should have just gone, do you know what, see you later, the rest of the league. And that hasn't happened. And ultimately the Glazers coming in, putting the debt on, having Woodward as part of the club, and then obviously Fergie leaving, and then everything that's happened over the last decade, it really has just, it paused the club completely. If anything, it's probably made us fall backwards, and that couldn't happen, and it especially couldn't happen in the modern game, which I think makes me wonder The Glazers won't be around forever. I genuinely believe they won't be. But I don't believe we win with them in charge. We'll win the odd League Cup. We might even win the Europa League, probably the Conference League. But we don't want to be winning them trophies. And I get people in the comments come out and say, do you know what? You shouldn't be ever, too spoiled as a fan. What makes you so big of a club that you shouldn't be winning them trophies? But you know what? I understand that point. But Man United shouldn't be in the Conference League. They just shouldn't be in the Conference League. And the fact that you wouldn't ever say the teams that are in the Europa League and the Conference League are your likes of your Romas and that sort of, no disrespect to Roma, they're a huge club, but United are too big for that. You don't see You didn't even see Barcelona not qualify for the Champions League this season. I think they finished fourth. They still made the Champions League, and they're in massive turmoil. But Abdel, I know you wanted to make a point. It looked like you were about to speak, mate. What were you going to say, pal?
Yeah, I just wanted to intervene a little bit and say that there is so much focus on the manager or getting a miraculous manager. Because even if Fergie stayed, I don't think Fergie would have had success later down the line.
I don't think. I think 2013 would have been the end.
Because there is a lack of focus on the structure behind the manager. Yes, Fergie was more of a complete autonomy over the club until the Glazers jumped in the club. But even with Fergie, starting from 2005 and later on down the years, things were taken away from him. Control over certain things. Now, I think the only person that has helped him continue his success is David Gill, by getting him the odd person that could function for him. But again, there is this. I see it with all the fans right now. There is this point that, Liverpool are where they are because they got Klopp and Klopp into the door, or Pep Guardiola into the door, and that's completely overblown. It isn't just because of that manager everything suddenly worked. It's because of the structure behind that manager, not that manager. Klopp would have gotten sacked out of Liverpool if Liverpool didn't have a proper structure. Just like when he left Dortmund was at the bottom of the Bundesliga. At first they were working with him, and then they were like, you know what, Klopp, we don't want to do this anymore. We're more of a selling club, so we're not really with you in this developing the team shit. You develop them, we'll sell them. So Klopp couldn't do much, and he left Dortmund down the bottom, like the bottom of the Bundesliga, very close to relegation. So it's the structure behind. Like, people don't talk about like the CEO of Liverpool or the CEO of whatever. Maybe City, yeah, because of their money. But for example, the CEO of Liverpool, Peter Moore, he was in charge of EA, the sports, Electronic Arts. And he was a very, very successful one. When he came into Liverpool in 2017, he changed things, and things were changing even before that. And before that, during what's his name's time, Brendan Rodgers. So this complete focus down on, it's Klopp who transformed the entire thing. No, that's not true. That's never been true. And the English media is trying to feed that. The English media just want a hero complex.
That was my point.
They want a hero complex.
That was
and
my
the
point,
hero
Abdel,
for
what you're
Liverpool
saying about
is Klopp. Yeah. The hero for Liverpool is Klopp. After 30 years, he finally won them the league. It's all because of Klopp. Look how he hugs the players. Look at the connection between them. Look at whatever. It's the same shit with Guardiola. But Guardiola, because of how successful he's been with Barcelona and Bayern and everything, they were like, Guardiola is the best manager in the world, and that's why it worked. They just got him at Man City, and then boom, City is the most dominant team in Europe. But no, City was developing a lot before Guardiola. Yes,
I think they wanted Guardiola probably 2009, 2010.
Yeah,
I think they saw him and thought that's the end goal. We're going to shape this club around him coming to our club.
Bro,
he's going to be our manager one day. And every decision they made behind the scenes was because they wanted him.
Now,
and the structure allowed them to get him.
Let's assume Sir Alex gets out of retirement and comes back to Manchester United. Do you think Sir Alex will overtake City and Liverpool with the way things are being run? No way. I
don't think he'd overtake them, but I think he'd get.
He'll get more out of the team than we're already getting. Sure,
yeah,
but
I think we could have done that.
Success that he is, that he was. Because
can I just interject? Can I just interject? What you're saying is exactly what I was saying about Richard Arnold. He's a professional CEO. So we've got to give him that time to do it. But it's actually worth it, guys. Sorry to drag this up. We were worse than the Europa Conference League back in the 1970s. You know, it's not all about the 90s and 2000s. It's about the 70s, the 60s, the 50s.
I think that's an
40s,
important point.
and we were worse.
United have been in worse footballing positions before. We were relegated in the 70s. You know, United have been in the shit before. But
just one last point. Sorry, Callum and Stu. Just one last point on the Glazers, for example, saying that we won't win anything without them, with them. I think the point here is, if you have an owner that cares about the club and is, you know, putting capital into the club progress is so fast. You know, it's not about the ownership doing the extra. It's about basically how much progress can you make if the owners care, right? Manchester United don't need the Glazers' capital to succeed. You know, it just needs a proper structure. Now, do we know for a fact that the Glazers are stopping the structure from changing, or they just don't care? They just don't put money into the club. Is it this or that?
Then where's the fan share scheme then? Well, it's just a question. Just where is it?
Where's the what?
The fan share scheme that they promised. They said they were going to restructure the club and all the fan share scheme. That was the last we heard about. That was November 2021. So where is that?
I don't know, and I can't tell you. Like I said, I'm having questions just like you. But what I'm trying to say is that the point that I'm trying to get to is we can succeed with them, even though they don't put capital, if the structure changed into a better one. Now, are they the driving force to the change in the structure? I don't really think the ownership should be. It's more of the CEO. He's in charge of all the operations of the business, right? Because whether we like it or not, a football club right now is a business, right? But he's in charge of all the operations. So is he going to change the structure or not? If Arnold doesn't change the structures at all, then yeah, we will continue to fail, right? Regardless of whether the Glazers are putting money or taking money, doesn't matter, right? If my point is, if you have an ownership that cares, the progress is much faster. If you have an ownership that really doesn't care what happens, you just leave it to a guy and he's the CEO and the CEO is in charge, it's slower, but it's possible. Like right now, Manchester United's future is in the hands of Arnold, and it will be whether they succeed or not is, I believe at least, is on him. It's not on the Glazers. Now the Glazers can push a change. I wish they cared. I wish we had owners that cared, but I don't think they do. So they don't really care. So I'm looking at Arnold because everything is under his hands. We're not going to get rid of these guys, unfortunately, until they decide to sell. So that's the difference or the point that I was trying to make.
Yeah, I completely get what you're saying. And the stuff with the football structure, I completely agree with how important it is. I just think on a very kind of basic level now, if, you know, like you said, it's not about the Glazers' capital. It's just about them letting us spend our own money, essentially.
Yeah.
If they let us do that every year for the next 20 years, if they let us actually spend the money we have,
I think they do. It's just that hasn't been spent well. I think
exactly. I can't lie. We've actually had a lot of money. We've spent money stupidly. I get what you're saying. You can talk about the stadium and all these things and everything, and we can go around in circles about it and everything. And I get that. I totally understand that, and I get everyone's viewpoint. But then what happens, right? You get your thought process gets blinded because you just think about one negative thing after one negative thing. Like, we don't know if, like I said, it's all hypotheticals. We don't know if we can win something with the Glazers still in charge and the structure's right. Like I alluded to before, and this is a fact, any Liverpool fan, you ask them, their owners, the group that own their club, didn't have the right structure. They didn't have the right structure in place before, right? And so they're being run poorly. Then they put the right structure. That's when the change happened. They still don't like the owners, but that's when the change happened, and they wanted one or two things that were important. So we don't know, and that's what Stu was alluding to. let's be a bit patient. And I get it. Some fans, they have their PTSD and obviously the past and everything. I get that. But I think people forget, like, this is new. Even to me, this is new. This is new for everyone. We're in a new environment. We've been stuck with Woodward for how long? Now we have John Murtaugh clearly going to back the manager's idea and what he wants. This is new. If people actually do their homework and you go back to even the transfers we've done, majority of our transfers in the past, I think it's like over 60%, I think it's like 65 or it's just under 70%, was actually done because an agent brought them to us, not because it's scouted, a player was scouted or things like that. This is what I'm saying. When people talk, sometimes you have to do the homework of your club. So literally, like I said, if you look at the window with Jose, that was all Mino's agents. Tell us.
Tom,
But that's because...
Let me just stop you there 1 sec. No, Mr. Tom, let me just stop you there for 1 sec.
Time, that's Stu.
So Vicky was on
there
this channel
your
3 or 4 weeks
stopped.
ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, and she spoke.
I can't hear.
Stu, mate.
Oh, did it? Right. Well, she spoke.
You're going to have to start that completely again.
Adrian. Oh, right. Okay.
Oh, we can't hear you. We can't hear you.
What I was saying is that Vicky spoke about Adrian.
Yeah.
I'm live. I can see you guys. I'm live.
You're like,
we can see you. We can see you.
We can see you.
What's going on?
Is your internet all right, mate? You're like properly lagging, and
No,
you
I can
sound
hear you.
coming
I'm
up.
live.
Are you all? Can you hear us? Okay.
I don't know why I'm live. Yeah, I can see
There you go.
fine.
Right, go on. Try again. I think
fine.
it worked then.
Yeah, try now.
Right. Okay. What I was going to say,
try again.
Vicky was on a show. Vicky was on a show 6 weeks ago, and she was talking about scouts, and she was talking about the issues that I've had bringing in specific players. And whoever the panel at the time kind of dismissed it, like, you don't know what you're talking about, etc. But what she was saying is exactly true. We're having issues with our scouting. So it's not all about the players that were bought for.
Wait, Stu, did you say? Wait. Did you say we're having issues with our scouting?
No, I think he said, Tom, that a panelist, Vicky, was on the other week and mentioned that, and whoever it was said, "Oh,
listen. Okay, how about this year? I suggest everyone does some homework into a lot of the scouts, the scouts that's actually at Man United, and check the list of players they've actually scouted. We have good scouts at that club. We have literally some good scouts at Man United. I'm not even joking, because I've checked this. We have some good scouts that scouted players that they put them to the club, and the club just, Woodward just was like, no, and look past them. Literally, and this is a fact. Trust me, I have this information. I can go get it right now. I can get all of it and list of players. You got to be surprised, because when the person brought it to me and they told me, I was like, oh, effing and blimey.
Yeah, and it all goes back to the structure. Like, this has nothing to do with Glazers here. It's a shit structure not being put in place by Ed Woodward, and that's why we're failing. Like someone commented that he said he doesn't agree with me. It's naive to think that we're gonna succeed with the Glazers. Yes, we can succeed without them. With them. But if there's the structure is, because the Glazers don't kick the ball. You just need a proper structure. Whether they now the point I don't know is, are they actually the ones who are preventing us from putting a good structure? Like, no, we don't want to change the structure. Leave it as it is. I highly doubt that, because they really don't give a shit, But if the CEO, which I believe it is the CEO who's actually preventing us from a good structure, which was Ed Woodward, is the one that actually has the keys to this. He can change this.
Quick question. Does anyone know? Sorry to interject with you. Does anyone on this panel know how we actually stumbled upon Alex Tellers?
No.
Does anyone know? Because his agent brought him to us. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not even just with him. It's been a quite few. This is what I'm trying to say.
Mate, I don't think it's a secret that the scouting system at Man United has been a bit of a mess for a while.
No, wait. That's not scouting. That's the problem. The scouting is not getting used. That's the problem. This is what I'm trying to say. The scouting department that has not been getting used.
Yeah.
Literally,
that's the same with. By the way, that's the same with most transfers. Like for example, take the transfers of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
So people say they scout stuff, but
Daniel
the scout is
James
not getting used.
Daniel James was a recommendation from Giggs.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. A lot of our signings are recommendations.
Maguire was the most sought out centre back that Mourinho wanted, right? And he won. He was in the team of the tournament, and Pep Guardiola wanted him. City wanted him, so they went for him. Fred, Fred was not under Ole.
Wait.
Yeah, well, City wanted Fred as well, I believe, didn't they?
Yeah, but they would have never listen. Check the actual wording. What club was he at again? The name of the club?
Shakhtar.
Yeah, they even said it themselves. They were so shocked of how much we paid for him. They were shocked of how much we paid for him.
I think
they
we
didn't even think he was worth that.
Mate.
Like
but this is what I'm saying. This is what I said about the people. The people in charge weren't getting held accountable for the stuff that they were doing. This is the some things that fans don't do the homework and do the research about. I'm a nerd like that. Anyone that comes into my space today, I'm a nerd like that when it comes to these things. I'm literally a nerd. I love doing my research and my homework, digging deep into the club, about the scout, everything. Yeah. And there's another guy that's similar like me. We were like-minded, so he shares things with me.
Bruno Fernandes, his agent was selling him to clubs, and that's why we got him. He's been going around and trying to get people to buy the player. What's his name? Aaron Wan-Bissaka played a good game against us. That's when they took notice of him, and a lot of clubs were after him, so that's why they got him. There is no proper planning on how are we going to play, and what players and player profiles do we need. There's no planning for that. The only players I think Ole as a manager really wanted is Jadon Sancho, Erling Haaland, and probably Jude or Grealish. I can't tell which one. I haven't read more about these two. And that's it. These are the ones that he actually wanted because Haaland played for him. Jadon Sancho, I don't know why Ole was fixated on him, but he had a reason for it. I think because he was a creator from the wide areas and he needed that. And same thing with Grealish. Grealish and Sancho have the same profile type from different sides. So it made sense for both of them to be wanted by Ole. Jude, I'm not sure if it was Ole or not, but we were after him big time. We really wanted him. The rest we wanted from before Ole. Bruno, we wanted him from before. Maguire, we wanted him from before. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, we wanted him from before Ole. The only one is Daniel James, and that was a recommendation from Giggs. His character is good. He's a good player. You can have him in the squad and all blah, 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 whatever the rest of it. I highly doubt we wanted Cavani. Palestri and Ahmad came out of nowhere. Alex Telles, the agent, was selling him to us. So we can keep going, right? Ronaldo, we got tricked into buying him as well. Varane wanted to leave Madrid and was looking for a club, and we were like, oh, that's a good offer, a player with 4 Champions League and shit and stuff like that on a very nice price. Let's get him. It's not thought out at all. There is no plan. This is how we play, and we need this player for that specific position because he can do certain stuff that meshes well with the entire team. We don't do that stuff. We just get players like that, and that screams structure and recruitment process and a well thought out plan. It has nothing to do with if the Glazers, let's say we hear that they interfere in the sense of, no, we will want this player. No, we want that player. I think the only player we've heard that they interfered in is Anthony Martial. Other than that, I don't think we've heard that they interfered with any other player.
I think they were thinking about Ronaldo, weren't they?
Or Ronaldo as well for the shirt sales and stuff like that. Yeah, but
I think the biggest thing at the minute is, and I know Abdel and James, you and Stu, we'll speak about it loads on a tactical preview. Really, it kind of got a bit skewed, didn't it? But I think surely all of the fan base, I can't understand how anyone could be against this, but the structure at Man United has been woeful for 17 years, but it was allowed to be ignored for the first 8 years because of Fergie. His genius led to us succeeding in spite of the Glazers, not because of them. And the thing is, when he retired, there was absolutely no plan in place to allow the transition to just continue, because there was nothing put in place for him, because there was no football structure in place, because Fergie did it all. But really, what should a proper footballing structure or proper owners would have gone, right, the person that does absolutely everything needs to now be replaced, not just the manager, but everything behind that as well. So a structure needed to be put in place, and it wasn't. And now, because we don't have that genius anymore, now that we don't have that running everything, immediately we saw the wheels come off, and we saw the fact that United was such a, I think as soon as September 2013 hit and Ed Woodward left the Australia tour to go sort out transfer business and then signed Fellaini on the final day, it just immediately went, oh, hang on a minute, that's a bit odd. How's that happened?
Callum, sorry to stop you here. I think something I want to just highlight. I think there is a very smart, not a coincidence, but it was very smartly done by Fergie, and luckily for us as well. In 2005, when they took over, right, by 2006 we had completed the team. I think 2006, 2007, I think the last piece was Michael Carrick, when we bought him, right? And that team was just coming about, like the 07-08 team, right? So Glazers did not have much to interfere with that team. Fergie had already built his last team. Perfect team, fits each other, fits what he wanted to do with them, right? And then that team had a peak up until 2011, final Champions League against Barcelona, right? And then that team started to deteriorate, right? And we weren't getting proper replacement. Fergie wasn't getting the players he wanted anymore. There was no value in the market, all that blah, 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 blah. So Fergie was like, you know what? I'm going to, like squeeze this juice out of these players as much as possible. And I'm dipping, because there is no way I succeed after that. And he literally did. He squeezed the last maximum drop out of the team he built in 2006. And then when he left, that team was done, because he knew that if he stayed a year further, Fergie was not going to win the league, was not going to win much with that team, because that team was on its last legs, and it's not being rebuilt anymore.
Well, that's what I mean. I think Fergie probably knew that he was on his way out anyway, and he didn't have it in him to do that next build of a side. And ultimately, then when he left, nobody else did it for him, and then and then obviously all that group of players were sort of coming towards the end of the United career.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is
suffered, Van Gaal did, Mourinho did, Solskjaer did.
We and him got lucky that they took over in 2007, not earlier, because he had already built his team, or almost at least. You know what I mean? Built his team. But if they took over, let's say in 2002. I'm pretty sure that phase of 2006-07 until 2011, that doesn't happen.
James, say something.
I think the biggest sort of summation of this you can say, we're talking about building squads. The person who was going to build a squad for us in the right direction, a data-driven, stats-driven team of well-bought, well-scouted players, was Ralph Rangnick, and he's been hired as a consultant, happened to become interim coach for 6 months, which he's not very good at. We let him do that and then sacked him off before he got the chance to show what he was good at. I mean, it's just, we've been comparing ourselves to Liverpool this entire episode. Liverpool did this exact same thing. They hired, back in like 2010, they hired Spurs' director of football, who signed Berbatov and Modric, had this eye for talent. He didn't do very well, but he brought in this sort of Moneyball idea, Moneyball from the States, Billy Bean, Oakland days, data-driven, looking at football through data, and that's helped them set up for Jurgen Klopp. I think Ralph Rangnick was our answer to that. Ralph Rangnick was our window into how football recruitment should be done. And this whole talk about, we scout players and then we just sign them off vibes and agent talk, that's all United have been doing. Ralph Rangnick was our window into getting rid of that, and we've got rid of him. So I'll be patient. Don't get me wrong. I'll be very patient with his club. Richard Arnold's just starting. This is a new world without Woodward. But when that happens immediately, it's very hard to get optimistic about the direction the club's headed in, even if there are positive changes coming in.
I already think the Arnold era is better than the Woodward era, and he's been in the job 6 months.
James, I don't know if you know this, but I think his name is Mick Cook, if I'm correct. I know it's something Cook. So he's now the head scout guy, technically, where there was 3 head scouts, and Bout and Laura, is it Jim? Jim as well. Them 2 were the old ones. When I say old, so they did football on the eye test, right? Cook was the data guy. His team is all about data. So in a way, if you actually look at how our structures change, it has changed in a more data way, if that makes sense. And even the guy that we brought in to work underneath John, another guy who's also worked with data. Do you get where I'm coming from, James? So I would say our club is trying to go in that direction. If the fact that they've got rid of 2 scouts, Bout is very highly respected in European football. This is a fact. He's very highly respected, right? Jim, he done good work at Man United from his days. If people know about him, like he's actually done really good work at Man United, but he weren't listened to. He weren't listened to, unfortunately. Same with Bout. Bout wasn't listened to. When Bout brought us and brought up Delip from Ajax and other players, they just brushed it off. He weren't listened to. So it tells me Man United, the fact that they've got rid of those 2 and they kept the data guy and then brought in another data's guy. Does it make sense what I'm saying, James? It seems like they're trying to go in that direction. I might be wrong, but that's what it would tell me.
Well, I think everything's kind of been said that needs to be said. I think there was a lot of different stuff that came out from the panel. I kind of knew that was going to happen. I kind of just let tonight just free flow because there was no point me getting involved, really. It was kind of 6 lads just talking football tonight and talking the current issues at United. And I think everyone got the point across, whether they agreed with how it was done or disagreed or were happy with what's happened or not happy with what's happened. So I think something good has happened and something has come out of it, but ultimately more action is needed. He can say all the words in the world, but action needs to happen. Players need to be kind, structure needs to be changed, and hopefully things are going to take a turn now at Man United. I think once September comes, we'll see a bigger picture of what's happened and what's changed at United. Fair play and respect to those that did manage to meet Richard Arnold. I think it has led to something quite good, hopefully. But yeah, thanks to the panel tonight, guys. Make sure everyone's liking and subscribing. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Follow all the lads on Twitter as well. They do some good tweets and funny things. Alexei is amazing at Twitter as well, by the way. Aren't you, Alex, mate?
No, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
You just constantly get thousands of likes, don't you? It's mad. So everyone follow all the lads there. They're all good guys, and they know what they're talking about anyway. But thanks for your support tonight. We've got quite a lot of viewers tonight. We've got a lot of comments as well from you. So we're glad that the debate was healthy and very clean, which was always nice to see. But yeah, make sure you're liking and subscribing, and we will see you tomorrow night on the next show, which I believe is 9 or 10 o'clock. Probably should have checked that. Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in.